Does this sound familiar? One month you're drowning in client work, burning the midnight oil to hit deadlines. Then the next month your pipelines run dry and you're desperately hustling for new business. This exhausting feast or famine cycle is all too common for creative agencies trapped in the world of custom, bespoke services. But what if there was a way to break free from that roller coaster once and for all? So today's episode, I want to introduce you to the concept of productizing your service offerings. By packaging your service into standardized, repeatable products, you can unlock a path to consistent revenue, sustainable growth, and the freedom to finally work on your business rather than just in it. This episode explores how productizing services can bring clarity to your marketing, streamline operations, and allow you to finally step out from under the shadow of over-reliance on a few key people in your agency or a few key clients. You'll learn a proven framework for identifying the right services to package up, crafting compelling marketing that speaks directly to your ideal client's pain points, and setting boundaries to protect your profitability. Now, our guide today is Brad Hussey, the founder of Brightside Studio and the Creative Crew community. Brad has walked this path himself, and he shares his candid insights into productizing his own offerings, including how to get your pricing right, how to manage client scope creep, and avoid commoditizing your services. So if you're ready to break out of the feast or famine cycle, tune in now. By the end of the episode, you'll be armed with a practical blueprint for transforming your agency into a finely tuned machine, primed to provide remarkable client experience, whilst finally realizing your vision for sustainable growth. So let's get started. I'm Rob DaCosta, and this is the Agency Accelerator podcast. As someone who has stood in your shoes, having started, grown and sold my own agency, I know just how it feels in the ups and downs of agency life. So this podcast aims to ease your journey just a little by sharing mine and my guests' experiences and advice as you navigate your way to growing a profitable, sustainable and enjoyable business. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this week's Agency Accelerator podcast. And this week we are talking all about productizing your service offering, which I think is a really smart thing to do. So we're going to dig into all of that, and I'm excited to be joined in this discussion with Brad Hussey. And Brad is the founder of Brightside Studios, a web agency based out of Alberta in Canada. He's a designer, a creator, an educator, and he also runs the Creative Crew, a community that empowers design agencies to grow their agency, amplify their creativity, and connect with top professionals. So welcome, Brad. That sounds like a lot of stuff, so it must keep you really busy.
Yes. Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And yeah, you're right. When you hear it kind of put out there, you're like, whoa, there's a lot going on there.
Yeah.
But I've been doing it for a long time. So there's always like a moving piece, there's always something steady, but then something comes in, something goes out, a new thing comes in. So I'm kind of used to, I guess you might say, juggling, a few pieces at a time.
Yeah, absolutely. So today we are talking all about productizing and systemizing services so they become repeatable and, most importantly, scalable. And we break away from that over-reliance on a few key people in our agency. And this sounds like an aspiration that many agencies would or should have. So can we kick this discussion off by you just explaining what you mean by productizing a service offering and share some of the key benefits of taking that approach? Now, let me just put a pause on here and jump in quickly to introduce you to our free bi-monthly 45-minute agency workshops. These sessions are packed with value, focusing on the critical challenges you as an agency owner might face, from defining a clear niche to setting the right pricing, from preventing feast or famine to team building. We've got you covered. Each workshop includes an in-depth exploration of the week's topic, along with a Q&A session to address your pressing concerns. And remember, these are providing you value with no sales pitches. So head over to dacostacoaching.co.uk/agency-accelerator-live-events. That's Agency Accelerator Live Events, and save your seat. Okay, back to today's topic.
Of course. Yeah. So the productizing right now, there's a little bit of, I would say, confusion, maybe just on design Twitter or design X, whatever we might call it right now at this point in time. Productizing is when essentially your service offering is almost like you could just pick it off a shelf. It's not custom. It's not bespoke. It's not something that you get on a call with the client for, and then you work through the problems. You do the Socratic line of questioning. Why this? Why that? Why this? You don't do any of that. There's no custom price. There's no custom timeline. It's literally, or it's actually not literally, it's figuratively a product off the shelf. You walk into your virtual design shop and the customer identifies with the problem that you're putting on the little billboard or on the little sign and goes, yep, I have that problem. That looks like the solution. Okay, it's this much, and this is when I can have it. And they take it off the shelf. Just like if you were to walk into a shop and buy a product for a certain need at that exact time. So the definition, you might say, is a productized service is a service offering that is fixed in outcome, fixed in scope, fixed in timeline, and fixed in price. Some of those can wiggle. I've done productized services and worked with other folks who have a productized service where maybe the price varies a little bit, or maybe the scope of the project is a little bit different. And I even have a productized service where it's marketed as one and done, but based on a 15-minute call with the customer who's already ready to buy, I go, you know what? Let's tweak this a little bit, and it works. So you're not, you don't have to just abide by exactly all those fixed rules, but that's kind of the rule of thumb: fixed in outcome and scope, timeline, and price. And the further away you get from that, the less productized it is. And there's also different types of productized services. We can get into that as well. But here's where the confusion lies, I think, is a lot of designers now think that productizing yourself means offering an unlimited subscription agency, an unlimited subscription service. So this is like the design joys, the design pickles, the unlimited video editing services, the unlimited design, unlimited coding, whatever, where it's a subscription and you can have unlimited tasks and they'll work on it one by one. That is a type of productizing, but productizing doesn't mean it's a subscription offering. In fact, most productized services are literally one price off the shelf. There's your product with the specific outcome. And so that's what a productized service is. And one piece I just realized that I might not have said clearly is the other fixed part is who the customer is. So it could be, and we can get into examples a little later too, but maybe you only do websites for maybe a certain type of website. Let's call it, a WordPress website, could be a Webflow website, could be a Wix Studio site. Maybe you use a platform and you say, in 1 week, we'll build a Wix Studio site for lumber companies, lumber distributors. And that's it. And it's $5,000 in 1 week. And that's it, just like that. And the systems are tight. The operations are tight. You could train your staff on it. You could sell the operation because it comes with an operating manual. That's productized.
Yeah, so good. Such an interesting sort of thought-provoking approach, which I'm sure lots of our listeners won't necessarily have thought about. Just share, I mean, I know the answer is kind of obvious, but just share some of the advantages of an agency going down this productization route.
So the advantages would be the immense clarity you experience, first of all, when you know who your customer is, exactly what they suffer with. I always like to use the word suffer in that context, because a lot of the time we'll dance around, oh, what's the problem you're solving? You're like, look, my itchy back can be a problem, but I can scratch it up against the door jamb and I could scratch my own itch. So that's a problem. Suffering is like you have a gash or an open wound that needs to be requires emergent care, and you need some help immediately. Else, you'll have some serious issues on your hands in short order. So that's why I say, you know who your customer is intimately, you know what they suffer with, and you know what's going to help them. And so that clarity is just crazy. When you get on a call with somebody and they just don't fit in that box, you can politely send them on their way, send them to a referral. Maybe you have a partnered agency where you go, hey, I get a lot of these folks. They're not for me, but let's work out a deal here, or I'll just keep sending you leads. However you want to do it, it's up to you. Or maybe you're an agency where you do bespoke work, but you have a productized kind of arm to the agency where it almost feeds into your bespoke work. And you go, oh yeah, this isn't going to be a good fit for you, but let's talk about this offering over here. And so the advantages there are massive. The other advantage or benefit rather is the clarity you get with your marketing. Most agencies, freelancers, small studios, creative entrepreneurs, they're so unclear about their marketing. Muddy positioning is a phrase that I've heard, where your positioning is kind of muddy. You don't really know, it's neither here nor there. But when you have a productized service and you know all of these levers that are very clear and laid out, your copywriting comes clear, the way you communicate the offering is clear, the problems and the issues, the words, the phrases, all of this stuff becomes so clear because you're in the head of the customer. In fact, you might have even interviewed some of your customers for market research and asked them certain questions. Hey, what brings you to the situation where you start to look for these solutions? Oh, well, I tried out this tool and this happened, and then I inevitably got across this roadblock. And so then I start hunting around, I start Googling and doing this, and you go, oh, interesting. 3 other customers said that exact thing. Maybe I can use that in my storytelling and in my marketing and in my emails, ads. And you'll get statements coming back from the customer or the client where they say, it sounds like you're in my head. You're like, well, because I am. That's exactly what I am, in your head, because I've so many of you and you've all said the same thing. And this is the solution to it. It becomes so much easier to market and to sell because the customer comes to you on the call, not with their guard up. They're literally just wanting to know, when can we start and can you really help me with this? And that's it. And it's just a matter of, you can start in 2 weeks. We need to book you in. I take a deposit or I take payment in full because maybe it's a more approachable payment. And it's so much easier. Now, singing its praises here. There's obviously downsides, but these are some massive advantages.
Yeah, let me just dig into a couple of them before we talk about some of the downsides. So anyone who's listened to me on this podcast for a few years knows that I am a massive fan of having a clear niche, and Brad has just really banged the drum for that because it makes you look different. You can create marketing messages that are not just cliches, and also that, like you say, resonate with your clients. I mean, don't we all want to have that situation where a client says, oh my God, you read my mind? That's exactly what's going on for me. I just want to say another thing. One of the most popular blogs I ever wrote years ago was this blog that said, are you selling painkillers or vitamin pills? And it's kind of what you just said, Brad, just coached in a slightly different way, because I see too many people trying to sell vitamin pills to clients who need painkillers because they've got a headache today, and what they really need is a painkiller for their headache. They don't need a vitamin pill that might stop the headache coming in the future. But too many people are selling vitamin pills, and what they need to be selling is a painkiller. But they can't do that if they don't understand their clients. So this is another really great reason why we all want to have a clear niche or a clear niche. Talk to me. I've got a few thoughts around some of the downsides of this, but talk to me about what are some of the potential downsides. And I guess another question just to throw in there is, at what stage in an agency's evolution should they start thinking about productization?
I think that, if things are going well, this might be an argument to do it anyway. So maybe that any time is a good answer here, but to have some sort of sticky point of view here, maybe I'll say, if things are running smooth and it's not as urgent for you to change things up and you have no desire to, then maybe you don't need to even consider it. But I find when your operation isn't, let's say, running as smoothly, maybe your lead intake and your pipeline dries up and you get those feast-famine cycles a little too often, there's a dissonance and you just go like, something's not quite clicking. Maybe, just maybe, carving out some of that time, some of your resources. So if you have an agency with team members, perfect. Use your resources that you have. If you're a solo operator, then use your your own time and talent, and block out your schedule appropriately so that you can carve out some time and reinvest some of this towards productizing. And what that might do, if you have that lack of clarity, if things aren't coming smoothly, if the lead pipeline's not kind of filling up like you want it to, productizing might just give you kind of like an aha moment and a clarity with your customer. So maybe you have a bespoke agency where you do all the work, all the clients, all the stuff. And you like a particular area where you go, I really liked, I'm going to use this example of hardwood lumber agencies because I actually talked to a member of mine in our community, where he was a bespoke agency, but he has this background in the hardwood lumber industry. So not just lumber in general and not softwood, because softwood is very different from hardwood. And anyone in the lumber industry knows that very intimately. You don't sell softwood lumber to a hardwood lumber company. So anyway, he was like, I'm going to niche down and I'm going to try this out. This like only doing marketing and branding and websites for hardwood lumber industry. Sounds so strangely specific, and it is. And it's done nothing but wonders for his business. So worst case scenario, he tries it out, gets a few clients, he learns more about those customers, stretches his mind a bit, tries some new things, maybe makes a little extra cash, and then realizes, I'm going to go back. I have the clarity I need now. Let's go all in back on the bespoke work. Or when this is what happened in his case, it blew up and he's like, I don't do bespoke work anymore. In fact, we're renaming the agency and we only do this hyper niche. In his case, it's not entirely productized, but it's so focused on a niche that his standard operating procedures are almost as if it's productized. He's doing video work, websites, marketing. It's all in the same platform. He uses Wix Studio as well at previously Editor X. And so it's all so clear, and there's an instruction manual that comes with it. And so the worst case scenario, you stretch yourself, you learn a little bit about your customers and yourself, and you go back to the way it was and you try some new things. Best case, you realize, I don't know why I didn't do this a year earlier. And so that's kind of like, might be a good indication. If you feel a bit of dissonance and you kind of want to try something different, consider carving out some resources to productize something. Choose a type of customer, a customer archetype, research, interview some of your past customers and, maybe some people outside of it, and try to determine a specific problem that they have. That's the thing. Target a specific problem, that's suffering, and determine what is something that I can offer that's fixed in timeline, fixed in scope, fixed in price for that person and that problem. And you might realize it's a brand refresh, or you might realize it's a logo and brand startup package for, early stage startups, or you might realize it's a 1 week brand intensive where you walk through the strategy and it's 1 week and it's very scheduled and regimented. You might realize it's one of the things I do is a 1 day email marketing funnel refresh in ConvertKit. So your email marketing is all over the place, and it's for creators, content creators, and experts. And I know all their problems. I talk about it. I am one myself. I'm in communities. I know everything they say. So whenever someone gets on the call with me, I know it's virtually a guaranteed sale. And I go 1 day, refresh their entire ConvertKit with full systems. This comes with operating procedures and training, and it's just like set it and forget it. And so that, that's, I kind of got off track there a little bit. I can get really passionate about this, but
it's all good stuff. It's really interesting. Yeah, all good stuff.
To bring it back online though, when you feel like you need to change something up or you want to try an experiment, productizing is a really great way of doing it because, as I said 3 times now, worst case, go back to what you're doing. You've learned a thing. Best case, you realize you should have done it a year or 2 sooner.
Yeah, and you're always going to have a lot of benefits from that because the discipline of productisation means you're documenting your systems and your processes. And of course, the massive advantage of all of that is scalability. Like how many agencies do you speak to where the owner says to you, I feel really stressed, it feels really lonely running this business, everyone's looking at me for all the answers, I wish other people would take more responsibility, would be empowered. And in a way, they're their own worst enemy because they probably haven't spent time trying to get out of their head what they do intuitively so that other people can do it. And therefore, of course, nobody ever does it well enough. So I think even if you don't go down the full productization route, the process of, or the discipline of documenting your systems and processes, the things that you do to win a client, to onboard them, to deliver your service, to offboard them, is so absolutely crucial, right? So you're going to get that benefit anyway.
Absolutely.
Let's
Go ahead.
No, sorry. You finished the thought.
I was just going to say, when you said, documenting it, it made me think like with productizing, you see everything through a different lens. And if you do the same thing twice, that means it needs to be documented and put into a standard operating procedure. It could be automated. It could be delegated. It could be removed. Maybe you're doing something that's not necessary. Get rid of it. Make it really lean. Or you go, that somebody else can do that, or software or AI or an automation can do that. So document it. If you do it twice, that means it's repeated enough that it should be documented so that you could remove yourself and make yourself completely redundant.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good quote to take from the show. If you do something twice, then you need to document it and look at a way of automating and scaling and getting it off your plate, basically. So let's talk about one of the, kind of sort of elephants in the room as far as I can see, which is the danger of commoditizing your service by productizing, and how on earth do you get your pricing right? So, if let's say I'm a web design agency and I've been selling web designs somewhere between say £20,000 and £50,000. Now I'm commoditizing this service, so I'm going to be selling it for maybe £10,000. I don't know. That's probably a bad example, but so two questions really. How do we go about pricing it? And B, how do we not look like a very commoditized service, which then looks like whoever's the cheapest is who the client's going to buy?
Yeah. So that's a really great question. And what I love about productizing is that you can kind of make your own rules. So a common thought, and this isn't wrong, in fact, it's the trend, is that productizing is more affordable. That's generally how it works. A product off the shelf, if you needed a medicine, a headache medicine, and you're going to go to the pharmacy and you're going to buy it. It's, here in Canada, things are expensive. So it's $20. But if you were to go to the pharmacist and be like, listen, I have a headache. How can you help me? And the pharmacist goes, you know what? I've got all this knowledge and experience. I'm going to concoct something for you. It's going to take a few days and I'll make something custom for you, but it's going to cost you like $500 because, I'm taking all this time and effort and energy and resources. It's going to necessarily cost more versus the product off the shelf. Now, what if you walked into the pharmacy and you saw that the headache medicine was $500? You're going to go, what? This doesn't make any sense when there's a $20 one right here, or a no-name non-brand version for 15. I'm just going to get that. So necessarily, productizing tends to be more affordable. It makes more sense that way. But sometimes you can flip that and make it so that it is actually not at all affordable in that sense. Because the example I'm thinking of is, there's two examples here, and I want to make sure I get back onto the main question here, because like I said, I could go on a bit of a tangent. Designjoy.co. That's run by Brett, and I interviewed him in my community a while back, and he's kind of a hot topic in the design world because he's a one-man, $1.2 million agency, and he does unlimited design services. There's a lot of people who don't believe that he's doing it legitimately, and there's a lot of people who are angry at his success. I've talked to the guy, I've talked to other people who've talked to the guy who know him personally, and I think what he's doing is fully normal, fully legitimate. He's just a machine. Most people can't be like him because they put themselves in his shoes and they go, I think it's $5,000, and he has some clients who pay $2,000 still per month for as many tasks as you could throw at him. He'll just keep working through them. and he's constantly working. And they're like, you can't do it. There's no way. I'd be so stressed. So therefore you're not telling the truth. They're like, look, the reason why he's making 1.2 million with 20, 30 clients constantly and has this huge name in design Twitter and you don't is because he's just doing it and he's able to do it. And you're worried that you're not able to do it. That doesn't mean you're lesser than. It just means that you're not able to do that like him. There's some people who are just excelling, the best runners, the best athletes, the best business people. You're like, how do they do that? You're like, because they're made different and they know that and they're doing that. He knows that. He knows that he's a bit of a machine and he plays that up. Still human and struggles, I'm sure, with stress and time management. But his service is $5,000 a month. Now, a direct competitor, an unlimited design agency, would be Off Menu Design by Hunter Hammonds and Sahil Bloom. And they charge $15,000 a month. Similar thing. Now, the difference is anybody can hire Design Joy. Only certain people hire Off Menu. Different market, different pool, different expectations. And Design Joy might make widgets and icons for a startup that's going to go bankrupt next month. Or, maybe a big software company that's going to get acquired by Microsoft, at some point down the line. Whereas Off Menu, their premium price, they're generally only working with like high-end brands, reputable companies. Their list is on their website and you can see who they've worked with. It's just a different caliber and they have different expectations and there's also a different style, so they're productized using an unlimited subscription model. They don't use that term. In fact, I interviewed Hunter as well. And he says, I hate the term unlimited. It's not. It just means you can give us a task and we'll work on it one at a time. Unlimited is false, but a lot of people use that term. So it's, an on-demand Netflix style, subscription. You can keep watching as much as you want. You can keep submitting as much as you want. And they're productized, but one's budget and one's premium. So to come back on cannibalizing your offer and maybe negatively affecting it, it doesn't have to. Off Menu does custom work and it's probably 30 to 50 grand or 100 grand. I don't know what, they don't really advertise those prices, but I imagine they are. I've worked at agencies too. Whereas sometimes a productized service can be less. So I think what you need to do, let's assume that you're going to productize and make it a budget price. It's generally the right direction. What you'd need to do is to ensure you're not cannibalizing your offer is to don't look at your bespoke offer and go, you know what, I build custom websites, for whoever needs them. And it comes with a social media strategy and a brand package, let's say that that's what you do. And we charge 20 grand, for that. Don't say I'll offer that faster for 5 grand. Cause then people will go, well, I get the same thing faster for a quarter of the price. Why would I bother doing your bespoke work? That's the wrong direction. That's truly cannibalizing your work. And unless you can make up for it in volume of sales, you're actually going to negatively affect your business. What it really needs to do is basically be two separate mindsets, two separate segments of the market. So if I were to think of my productized service, I call it done in one day. It's just my clever little name I threw together because it gets done in one day. But it's your ConvertKit account. I said, give me 1 day with your ConvertKit account and you'll be the one that your competitors want to funnel hack. And what I do is it's in 1 day. It's really quick. It's expedited. It's fast. They have a survey they fill out. And so I get it done really quickly. And that costs like $2,500. Now, if I offered that same service for $10,000, but I just spread it out over like a week and made it sloppy and slow, they're always going to want the expedited, cheaper version. But what I would actually do, and I don't offer this, but if I offered a more full-fledged version for, let's say, $20,000, I would first go, this is a different market. within the same niche. So let's say it's creators, bloggers, podcasters, YouTubers, people who sell courses, memberships, these are the people. There's a group of people who can't afford $20,000 right now because they can't see the ROI. They know the value of getting out of their own way and getting their ConvertKit funnels working so they can make more sales. That's my productized offering for 2,500. That's those people. So I talk to them. I talk to them in the marketing. I interview them. I try to make sure I'm dialing it in for them. The people who are at a different league and they're doing 500,000, 1 million, 2 million, 5 million, like where they have a team, like they have an operation, that's a different marketing, different messaging, different needs, different pain points. They're not funnel hacking. They're not reading blogs. They're not downloading lead magnets and analyzing it. Like they're so beyond that it's not even funny. So if I'm trying to be like, you got to stop funnel hacking, they're like, right, I don't do that. So what's your point? Like it's a different market, but it's still a creator. So I would go, what do they struggle with? And I talk to them and I find out and I go, maybe it's more white glove, hands-on management where they can trust me managing their email marketing operations and their messaging. And anytime they've got, maybe it's an unlimited, subscription where I go for, 8,500 a month, cancel anytime. I'm your go-to fractional email marketing officer.
Sure.
And me and my team of 2 or 3 are always ready to make sure that anything you need, you got a promo coming out, there's a change. ConvertKit did a huge change recently because of Gmail and Yahoo's policy changes. They needed to do a whole bunch. I could be like, I'll take care of it. And if I got 3 or 4 clients paying me $8,500 a month, then you're laughing, right? So it's really about making sure you're not cannibalizing the segment of market where you're creating a more attractive, cheaper, faster offer. It's who needs that and give them something that, eases something a little smaller. One more example I can think of is they could also lead into your bigger services. So I have a repeat client who's purchased 2 done-in-one-day services because at that time, hey, I'm doing a launch. I'm doing a course launch. It's happening next week. My other guy kind of ghosted on me and I really need your help. Great. I can come in and out. You'll be done. You'll be ready. You can even have a break over the weekend before you launch on Monday. That's a perfect done in one day. Did it. It was so great. He came back. He was like, look, I'm actually going to do another course launch for the same product in a couple months. Can we get that booked in? Perfect. No problem. So we do that. That happens. And he goes, you know what? Is there any way I can work with you that's not like a one-off, just real quick, where you come in and fix the problem, get in, get out, almost like Navy SEAL style, get in, fix it, get out. Can you stick around and help me? Great. So that's a different journey where I go, yeah. So actually I could do branding, your website, your social strategy, of course, your email, we can kind of revisit and kind of do certain things, but we can do a holistic part here. All your landing pages are all over the place. You're using this, your consistency is off. If your market is like this market, they're not going to see you consistently with whatever you're throwing out there. I could put all that together for you. Here's what that's going to cost. And that's a premium price.
Sure.
It doesn't cannibalize at all. It actually feeds in to higher end offerings.
And that's a great way if you've worked out the value chain of your offering. I think one of the things I always say to my clients is if you want to be a profitable business, then you need to be aligned across 4 areas. And those areas are the market that you serve, your product offering, your price, and the service levels. And if you've got them aligned, so I always use arrows to explain this. So if I was going to target the lower end market with a lower end, very bespoke product, very little service level, and a lower price, then I'm still going to be very profitable. And I always use airlines as my example because in Europe, Ryanair, which is the butt of many jokes, is way more profitable than British Airways because they're very clear about their alignment across those 4 areas. And I think that's kind of what you're saying. If you're going to have a productized service, make sure that those other areas are really aligned to that service so that you can be profitable. And that leads me on to my last question, I think, before we wrap this up, and we could talk for ages on this. But let's say you've got a service that's costing £5,000 or $5,000, and you've got a very prescriptive way of onboarding the client and understanding what they need. But then the client starts trying to change the goalposts and say, "Hey, can you just do this? Can you just do that?" How when we've got a productized service, how do we manage that? Or does that then lead into the more bespoke service because of what they're asking for?
Yeah. So there's, I think, one of three directions to go. The first one would be you don't have confidence and you're unsure how to handle that, and you just say yes. And then you fall back into old ways. You fall back into the freelancer mindset, where you don't want to upset the client. You just kind of end up being a task rabbit. That's the wrong way. So don't do that. Then the client won't respect you. Like, you'll go from being the authority, the expert who's helping them, really quickly to becoming their pet, where you're just, oh, can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do? And you're just a hired hand. It's like, it's ugly real fast. So don't do that. So getting that out of the way, the other two remaining options are say no and reference your scope, your contract, your sales page. That's the thing is with your marketing, your sales page, you can be unapologetic about what you do and what you don't do. Put it in the contract as well, which is also templatized. Like, it's the same for everybody. It's not custom because you bought it off the shelf. You read the label on the inside and you go, oh, you got the headache medicine thinking it was going to solve like your, backache. It's a bad example, but that you're like, I don't do that. You got to go and buy that. You can be unapologetic and professional about it. And I've had to do that a number of times. Clients slip back into old ways with old freelancers and they go, you know what, while you're in there, could you actually just do this? And I go, nope, I can't do that. Actually, that's outside of the scope of this. If you want this done in one day, I'm not a freelancer doing that. Here's what we can do though. And so this goes into the third option. So the second option is say no and cite your contract, your sales page, the scope, and just be professional about it. Can't do that. It's actually going to negatively affect the outcome. Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. I appreciate that. Yep. You're the professional. Apologize. It's great. They respect you more. And then you teach them how to behave with you. And it's great. Now, the third option is can't do that actually, but here's what we can do. Let's finish this up. Let's make a list of all these extra things that you're looking to do. And we're going to put that list together and we'll book another day. Unless it's less and we'll book a half day. So for me, my productized offering is a 1 day intensive, but I have this option where clients will inevitably have a whole laundry list of things. And instead of me being the guy who just goes and does it at any time, I take control of it and I go, looks like you gave me a list about 6 things over the past, bit when we were working on this project. How about you take a little bit of time and put a massive list together and we'll knock it out in 1 day. And because you're a repeat customer, instead of 2,500, we'll do it for 22 and I'll get it all done in a day. In fact, throw more in the list. I can handle more, we'll make sure it's done. And they're happy. They get their laundry list done. But for me, it's condensed in an area. It's quickly done and it's all batched in one area. So you can turn it into an opportunity to charge more, to repeat business with the client, to teach them and to train them how to respectfully work with you. And you could also obviously say, sure, we'll do those things, but it's hourly. And so we'll just do work on it. After this, we'll work on an hourly basis and I'll get that stuff done for you. Could be an income opportunity.
Good advice. Why is it that this is more of a rhetorical question for both of us, but why is it that so many people are scared of saying no? I mean, they run this belief that if I say no, the client will hate me and leave me and fire me and I'll never work again. This is sort of the story they tell themselves in their heads. And I think the other thing that makes me smile is that when clients say, "Oh, can you just, while you're at it, can you just," they have no concept of how long that "can you just" is going to take. And often in their head, it's 5 minutes, but it's probably more like 5 hours. So,
That's so true.
we have to build these respectful relationships, these partnership relationships with our clients, and pushing back professionally is certainly one of the ways of doing it. And like you said, if you just say yes, the client's just going to keep throwing more at you and they're never going to respect you and they're probably going to complain about things that you've done. So good advice.
Exactly.
Those 3 points are really good advice from Brad there. Brad, look, that's a topic for the whole servicing conversation, topic for another podcast episode. But Let's just wrap today up by me asking you the question I ask all my guests, which is if you could go back in time and give your younger self just starting out in business a piece of advice, what would it be?
Mm. Okay. I think what I would say is trust your gut. Honestly, I think trust your gut. Yeah. Because when I started, it was really nerve wracking. I had a lot of outside advice, like, don't do that. You should work at an agency for longer before you know how to do this yourself. And my gut was like, I think I could do it. And I was saying that for a long time. But to me, there was a lot of like, I don't know if maybe that's me being young and immature and selfish. But like, I think my gut was like my conscience being like, no, 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 you can do this. Like, worst case scenario, go get a job, man. Like, go get another job. There's always opportunities to be found.
Yeah.
But just like, trust your gut and see where that takes you. And I think that would have given me a little bit extra of like, whew, okay. Okay, let's ride this out a little more and until you start getting positive signals. Trust your gut.
Good one, nice and simple. It's interesting. I often ask my guests a follow-up question, which is, would your younger self listen to your advice? And most people say they wouldn't, but I got a suspicion that if you were saying to your younger self, trust your gut, your younger self may well listen to that because that's a really good bit of advice.
I
It's
think
funny, isn't it? I
so.
don't know how it is in Canada, but in Europe, we kind of get our gut instinct beaten out of us at school because we're taught to, learn by rote and all the rest of it. And yet, our gut instinct is so important. I was talking to a client the other day who's going through some recruitment at the moment, and they need a process, but I said you have to listen to your gut instinct as well because that's your safety mechanism. That's the thing when you can't quite put your finger on why someone isn't a good fit, even though they're answering the questions really well. You need to listen to your gut instinct because it's probably going to manifest later on down the road and cause you loads of problems. So good advice. Now, Brad, if people wanted to find out more about you or reach out to you, where would they go?
Yes. So the best place that you can reach out and connect with me is through my community. That's where I spend most of my time. I'm always there engaging with people and guiding people along and creating programming and content. So that's creativecrewcommunity.com. And so I'm in there all the time. You can reach out, DM, you'll see me everywhere. Second to that would be probably on Twitter or Instagram. And that's just at Brad Hussey.
Fantastic. We will list all of those links in the show notes. Just want to say thank you so much for joining us today. Such an interesting conversation. I really hope it's inspired some people at the very least to start looking at which parts of their business they can systemize and eventually productize as well. So thanks for joining us and sharing your thoughts and wisdom with us today.
Thank you, Rob.